U.S. producer prices rise by 0.2% in December. China injects 55 billion yuan into the financial system. And the French Prime Minister confirms he will not repeal Macron's pension reform. Welcome to the Q News Economic Bulletin. I'm Henny Saif, and we will present the latest developments shaping the global economy, from key market trends and financial updates to regional economic highlights and forecasts. We bring you essential news and analysis to keep you informed. Welcome back. We'll start off with the United States, where producer prices rose by 0.2% in December, below the expected 0.3%, signaling a moderation in inflation. The increase in the producer price index was primarily driven by higher goods prices, particularly energy, while services prices remained stable. Over the past 12 months, the index rose 3.3%, the highest since February 2023, driven by lower energy costs from the previous year. Core producer price index, excluding volatile food and energy components, remained unchanged, the first flat reading since March. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has criticized the U.S. for its handling of the California wildfire crisis, pointing out that the damage, estimated at $150 billion, is comparable to the financial aid sent to Ukraine. Lavrov questioned the U.S.'s priorities, suggesting that domestic issues like poverty and deindustrialization are being overlooked in favor of foreign spending. He also noted that some European opposition groups share similar concerns about their government spending priorities, with rising poverty and industries shifting to the U.S. due to lower taxes and energy costs. The U.S. government has unveiled sweeping new regulations on artificial intelligence chip and technology exports, aiming to maintain its global dominance while restricting China's access to advanced technologies. The measures cap AI chip exports globally, but grant unlimited access to key U.S. allies like Japan, the U.K., and South Korea. Commerce Secretary Gina emphasized the importance of U.S. leadership in AI development and chip design, calling the restrictions vital for national security. The rules, set to take effect in 120 days, represent a culmination of a 4-year effort by the Biden administration to curtail China's military and technological advancements.
I have learned many years of public service to never, 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 ever give up. I spoke to Prime Minister Vizir.
In response, China's Ministry of Commerce said that China firmly opposes the U.S. government's restrictions on exports related to artificial intelligence. According to a ministry spokesperson, the measures impose stricter controls on AI chips and parameters, extending extraterritorial jurisdiction and disrupt third-party trade with China. The ministry stated that the restrictions undermine global trade, disrupt market rules, and hinder technological innovation, affecting businesses worldwide, including those in the U.S. It emphasized that China will take necessary steps to safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. In addition, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun said that China firmly opposes U.S. restrictions on artificial intelligence exports and will take resolute actions to safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese enterprises.
美方泛化国家安全概念，将经贸科技问题政治化、武器化，滥用出口管制，恶意打压中国，严重破坏市场规则和国际经贸秩序，严重影响全球产供链稳定，严重损害中美两国和各国工商界利益。中方对此坚决反对，将采取坚定措施，维护中国企业正当合法权益。
Top EU officials have cautioned the US government against restricting AI microchip exports to European countries, arguing that such limits are contrary to America's own commercial and security interests. In a statement, the officials stressed the need for unrestricted US AI chip sales to all EU members, citing reliance on advanced chips for AI development. They urged the US to reconsider a warning of strained EU-US tech ties and called for dialogue with both current and incoming administrations to protest transatlantic collaboration.
The U.S. government has announced new restrictions on artificial intelligence chip exports, aiming to secure its dominance in computing and limit China's access to advanced technologies. The new measures cap AI chip exports globally, allowing unrestricted access for allies and maintaining bans on China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo emphasized the importance of U.S. leadership in AI development and chip design, stating the measures would help preserve national security and economic advantage. China strongly opposed the move, with its Commerce Ministry criticizing the restrictions as trade barriers that disrupt normal commercial activity. Beijing warned the measures violate international trade rules and undermine global supply chains. The regulations also classify countries into 3 categories based on access to U.S. chip, granting full exemptions to key allies like Japan, the UK, and South Korea, while imposing stricter controls on others. Industry leaders, including NVIDIA, have voiced concerns over the policy's impact, calling it overreach that could harm U.S. businesses. These rules, set to take effect in 120 days, highlight the Biden administration's focus on countering China's technological and military advancements while shaping global AI governance.
And joining us from Hong Kong is economic expert Mr. Benny Kwok, here to discuss the latest developments related to U.S. restrictions on AI chip exports and China's response to them. Welcome to Q News Economic Bulletin, Mr. Kwok. Now, how do you view the U.S. government's latest restrictions on AI chip exports, particularly their global scope?
Okay, thank you for inviting me to the interview for the program. And it is expected for the United States to target China in terms of the AI chips technologies. We of course, including me, of course, the market has already expected the U.S. to further to ban the China to take the advanced AI or other advanced technologies from the United States. So that's why for this move, it is within the expectations, whether it is the current Biden administration and also the coming Trump administrations. So the focus would be how China could build up its own production line or its own production line on or the research institutes on doing to build up its own AI technologies, and also how to make use of the so-called middle countries, as written in the latest report from the U.S. to try to convince those countries to sell part or even all of the technologies that is banned by the United States in order for China to compete with the United States in terms of the AI.
Well, what sort of strategies might China adapt to mitigate the impact of these restrictions on its AI and semiconductor industries with the threat or the challenge posed by the US, as you've mentioned?
Of course, first, and I've said the first question, of course, is to increase its own research strength, of course, but it would take time. So, of course, that would be second method, and is to make to make use of its good, friendly relations with especially the Middle East countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, who are interested in investing in China. And of course, maybe not India, maybe the Middle East. Middle East would be the key. And of course, China has a very advantage in terms of taking the U.S. advanced technologies. That is Hong Kong. Hong Kong is used to be a so-called white glove for China for many years to import and export the advanced technologies from the Western countries, no matter the chips or other advanced technologies. So that's why until this moment or in the future, not only the Middle East countries and for Beijing, I would say it would further make use of the Hong Kong to try. I won't say steal, but I would say to try to buy indirectly from so-called third parties through Hong Kong from those for the AI technology, so that it would make a very secret way to bypass all the restrictions and the legal way, so that the U.S. cannot stop it.
Well, then, Mr. Kwok, what are the potential ripple effects that on global supply chains that would actually develop the domestic and especially in semiconductor manufacturing? Do you think that these challenges would actually encourage trade with other countries around the world, in Asia, such as Saudi Arabia, and other parts of the international community as well?
I would say, okay, for when these kind of technological and the semiconductor limitations imposed by the U.S., and now we are seeing the Western lead as a U.S.-led production line, and also another one is the China-led production line. That is, okay, of course, the U.S. and its allies control the most advanced technologies, but also the China also have a very eligible and it is competent to produce not the most advanced one, but also the middle or the low price one, because China has a very good industrial foundations, especially in the semiconducting industries. So for the best of the interest for the China, its strategy would be to take over the target the middle and the lower price semiconducting and the AI technologies markets, so that with the by quantity. So once the China made AI or other chips with the large of the quantity and they sell it at a fairly lower price than the US and its allies make chips and the technologies, then it would be the advantage for the China to take the developing countries, because those countries and those markets could not afford a higher price, but China could sell it in a relatively lower price.
Well, what about reshaping the global AI governance landscape? Do you think that the competition between the US and China, the tech competition, them slugging it out, do you feel that it will reshape the AI governance landscape?
Same as the geopolitical competitions. So these two superpowers would have its own, I wouldn't say structures. Maybe they would have their own regulations. The regulations is not black and white. But for the US, for the West, yes, they would have the black and white on saying or banning and embargo on to exporting those technologies to China, Iran, and North Korea and Russia. But for China, in terms of China, they would say, okay, we are targeting the middle and the chip, and we are open to the world, including the West. If you are not happy for the U.S. Discriminatory policies, then you are welcome to buy Chinese technologies and AI chips, and China are welcome to do so. So we are seeing, in terms of the wordings, diplomatic wordings, China will be open, and U.S. would be more limited and I would say, limited, and then targeting the China-led world. And yes, that I would say those governments we are seeing, both China and US, it is quite hard to see those superpowers would have a true cooperation in the AI governance, because they are in competing the power who will lead in the AI technologies.
Yes. Mr. Benny Kwok, the economic expert from Hong Kong, thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And now we move to the latest developments from around the world. The People's Bank of China injected 55 billion yuan into the financial system through a 7-day reverse repurchase agreement at an interest rate of 1.5%. According to Xinhua news agency, this move aims to ensure ample liquidity in the banking system. Meanwhile, the Chinese yuan strengthened for the second consecutive day, with the central bank's reference rate set at 7.1878 yuan per dollar, up by 7 pips from the previous day. In Europe, French Prime Minister François Bayrou has confirmed he will not repeal President Macron's pension reform, which may jeopardize efforts to secure opposition support for the 2025 budget. Bayrou's statement follows Macron's loss of a parliamentary majority in 2024, after a controversial pension reform plan raised the retirement age to 64. The socialists, who are key to passing the budget, demand changes to the pension law. Bayrou's government faces challenges as it seeks to navigate a fragmented parliament and avoid a repeat of last year's political instability.
Le bilan, c'est aujourd'hui constater plus d'une vingtaine de morts.
British Finance Minister Rachel Reeves pledged the government's adherence to fiscal rules, stating in Parliament on Tuesday that these commitments would be met at all times. Facing opposition Conservative criticism over rising borrowing costs and their impact on public finances, Reeves reiterated the government's fiscal discipline despite potential challenges to future tax and spending plans.
There has been global movements in international markets in the last week or so, and those have been global in nature. But in the UK, we must do what we can, and that's why I've reiterated today my commitment to the fiscal rules that I set out in the budget in October, and reiterate that growth is the #1 mission of this government. Growth built on stability, which came through securing the public finances, through investment, including through the National Wealth Fund and GB Energy, and reform of our pension system, our planning system to make it easier to build in Britain, getting people back to work and reforming our pension system. This government is cracking on after 14 years of failure from the party opposite.
Thailand's Prime Minister has announced that the cabinet has approved a draft bill that would legalize casinos, a move aimed at boosting tourism and the economy. She clarified that the bill would also help attract more investment in Thailand and solve issues of illegal gambling. According to the draft law, which was published online for public consultation, casinos would be allowed to operate within a complex that also houses other businesses such as hotels, convention halls, malls or theme parks. Access will be restricted to individuals over 20 years old. Vietnam and Russia have signed an agreement to enhance nuclear energy cooperation during a visit by Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin to Hanoi. The deal aims to revive Vietnam's nuclear power plant project, which was initially shelved in 2016. Vietnam seeks to become energy sufficient and meet its 2050 emission reduction goals. Russia's state nuclear company, Rosatom, will assist in building plants and sharing nuclear technology. Mishustin also met with top Vietnamese officials to discuss bilateral cooperation until 2030. In the MENA region, Lebanon's Prime Minister-designate Nawaf Salem has announced plans to start a new chapter for the country, focusing on economic recovery and reconstruction. Salem emphasized the need for the full implementation of UN Resolution 1701 to secure Lebanon's sovereignty and facilitate rebuilding efforts following Israel's war on Lebanon. Salem pledged to address the ongoing financial crisis, where depositors' savings remain frozen due to Lebanon's financial collapse in 2019. He expressed a commitment to rebuilding Lebanon's economy with a focus on justice, security and progress. The National Institute for Statistics has reported that Tunisia's trade deficit for 2024 reached over 18.9 billion dinars. This marks an increase compared to the 2023 trade deficit of $5.3 billion. Tunisia's exports remained stable in 2024, while imports rose by 2.3%, driven primarily by a 9.1% increase in the energy imports. The coverage ratio of imports to exports dropped by 1.8%, reaching 76.6%. Israel's Ministry of Finance reports that the country has spent 125 billion shekels since the war on Gaza began on October 7th of 2023. The budget deficit for December reached 19.2 billion shekels, driven by the costs of the Gaza and Lebanon conflicts. Calculus newspaper estimates the total cost of the Gaza war will hit 250 billion shekels by the end of 2024, including security, civilian expenses and lost revenues. The National Committee recommends increasing Israel's defense budget by 275 billion shekels over the next decade. In markets, global shares have showed mixed performance. In the US, the S&P 500 edged down 0.05%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 0.03%, and the Nasdaq Composite dropped 0.11%. In Europe, France's CAC 40 rose 0.29%, while Germany's DAX rose 0.6%. Britain's FTSE 100 declined 0.3%. In Asian trading, Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 index slipped 1.8% following a holiday on Monday. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 1.8%, while the Shanghai Composite surged 2.5%. Oil prices slipped on Tuesday from the previous day's 4-month highs, but the market remains supported by continuing focus on the impact of new U.S. sanctions on Russian oil exports to key buyers India and China. Brent futures fell 0.72% to $80.43 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude lost 0.76% to hit $78.20 a barrel. Prices jumped 2% on Monday after the US Treasury Department imposed sanctions on Russian companies, along with 183 vessels that transport oil as part of Russia's so-called shadow fleet of tankers. These are all the news we have for now, but here's a reminder of the stories we've been covering. US producer prices rise by 0.2% in December. China injects 55 billion yuan into the financial system. And the French Prime Minister confirms he will not repeal Macron's pension reform. This concludes our economic bulletin for now, but please don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Q News EGY to stay informed. I'm Henny Saif, thank you for watching and stay tuned for more here on Q News.